Hey, welcome back to Casablanca Creative. So today I figured I'd make a video going over kind of my opinion slash review slash uh, speculation on Fallout 76. And this will kind of incorporate a little bit of a speculation I made before we found out more info during E3, and as well as all the stuff we found out during E3 from Todd Howard and Pete Hines there. So to start off with, before even E3 showed up, I had originally thought that with all the information that was given to us, being really kind of listed as this Vault would have multiplayer, it took part in a Vault 76, thus the name, so it's really uniquely different because of that, as well as also the trailer that dropped. There was no actual in-game footage, kind of like showing off where it was or the gameplay itself. So that kind of eked my speculation to go towards a different direction. And last but not least, because of it taking place before everything else happened, the fact that it takes place before most vaults open, even though this one specifically opens a little early, I figured maybe something would be done a little differently for this game. So my speculation at first was, I thought they were going to take their inspiration from their Fallout Shelter game, which is a mobile game that they came out with 3 years ago, right before Fallout 4 was released, kind of as a promo to kind of get everyone hyped up. But it ended up taking off pretty well because it was actually a very well developed mobile game. Even I liked it. Now, on the level compared to Fallout 4, I'd give Fallout Shelter like a 7, a solid 7. It's a nice, good game. Fallout 4 for me was like an 8 to 9. There's more on the great value on that. But that being said, I thought they were going to take Fallout Shelter's mechanics per se, the vault tech type of inspiration and building your vault. Thus, kind of almost the name for Vault 76, because why a specific vault, right? Like, you have Fallout 3, which is 101, Fallout 4, which is 111, right? Like, of course, they've kind of kept up that number system a little bit, but then if you look past that to Fallout 1 and 2, it's completely different. Needless to say, take the mechanics from Fallout Shelter and kind of make it consoleized. Now, I know everyone's probably going to say, well, we can play Fallout Shelter on consoles now, and heck, they're even coming out with Fallout Shelter for Nintendo Switch. This is true. But, that being said, more like up-to-date graphics, state-of-the-art graphics, state-of-the-art mechanics, and literally kind of make it almost like a Sims in the Fallout universe with Fallout mechanics, or Fallout Shelter mechanics. So you're building on your vault. You make your own vault. Oh my God, what are they called? You're basically the head guy or the head girl who runs the vault, the supervisor or superintendent or whatever the heck it's called. I can't even remember. I play Vault Shelter all the time, and I cannot remember what they call them. Needless to say, you play them, and you'd run your vault. Because in the trailer, it's the narrator's voice, which is a beautiful voice they use all the time for the trailers and for their game, mentions that the future of America will be made in Vault 76. So I was like, okay, obviously there's a significant importance to Fallout's Vault 76. And along those lines, I thought multiplayer would have been, okay, maybe you can invite other players to see yours, or maybe it was more like a world-sharing thing. Not so much worst-case scenario, but like most extreme case scenario, that maybe it wasn't so much you played the vault head guy, but you can go visit as a person who lives in the vaults or whatever, right? So clearly I was wrong. Really wrong. Not even close. So I went through E3's Bethesda's conference. I watched it, stayed up to watch the whole thing, as well as the interview with Pete Hines, Todd Howard, and they're still technically going through some extra information. They are answering for other interviewers, but pretty much this is it. Fallout 76 in a nutshell. And I'll go over in kind of like a point form of what it's got in it, what's new in it, what I don't like and do like about it, and what are my concerns. So first things first, still first-person shooter. It still carries like the mechanics like greatly over from the last game. The VAT system, clearly you're going to be real-time VATs. It's kind of common sense. If you're playing a multiplayer game, you can't have it pause. Your menu systems, like your Pip-Boy, are still going to be in real time. The HUD, so there's a lot of that you could see in the gameplay trailers that they released at E3, which, matter of fact, will be part of this video that you'll see later on. But those are the common ones that a lot of people were curious about. What we were worried about, whether or not this was going to be an exactly different type of Fallout game, such as like Fallout Shelter, right? They have done it, or if it's like the last one being Fallout 4. They do technically apparently still have a bit of a story, although there's a little bit of difference to that, and I'll mention that in a couple seconds with the new stuff. They still got the building from like the settlement building, but they've kind of tweaked it up a bit, so it's more just about you building your thing, which I'll also discuss in the new stuff, because they have amped it up a bit, to say the least. And last but not least, it takes place in the Fallout world, but it's going to be taking place, obviously, it has been confirmed, in West Virginia, clearly. You know, the trailer kind of gave that away. During the it's kind of like a prequel, a prequel in a way, that it takes place way back before the other games, and shortly after the bombs fall. So clearly that's going to create some other problems as well as solutions for certain things. Now, for new things for this that we found out that the multiplayer aspect is done on a server, but they've tried to make it seamless. So, for example, imagine starting Fallout 4 right now. You go to continue for your last save, or you load up your character. Well, I'm assuming what you would do now is you would load up whatever particular character you're playing, and it would go right into the world. You wouldn't be choosing a server or anything. Their multiplayer also incorporates just PvP right now. Now, I don't want to say that as in a way that the game is just PvP. They did express the fact that it's an option, and they are looking into ways they can make it less griefy-wise. Although I have to say, I've played plenty of multiplayer games, and even PvE multiplayer games without any of the PvP, and there are still creative and pain-in-the-butt ways you can grief other players. So hopefully they've learned from their other Bethesda works, being Elder Scrolls Online. So you have that multiplayer. You have also new enemies based off of the West Virginia type of lore. So you're going to see a lot of the old enemies being super mutants, ghouls, feral ghouls, stuff like that. But the kicker is to that, there's no NPCs per se, humanoid NPCs. They've established that they've taken them all out, and if you ever see another person, meaning not ghoul or... well, I don't think they'll have synths in this game. But if you see someone that's actually a player, any quest giving or receiving will be done through robots. Obviously, your Robco type things, like your Mr. Handy, all the other ones, right? Which is unique in a way, because obviously it's getting you to build more to the premise of how nothing's set up, right? This is really raw Fallout world where scavenge, survive, and start to build, not already have everything built, which I can totally understand how the lore goes along with the mechanic, although I do have my concerns about that. We also now have a new, slightly newer what do they call it? Slightly newer settlement building system. It's no longer a settlement you go to the build now or take over. It's literally this device that's called the C.A.M.P, which is referred to as obviously the camp. It's actually a device you bring with you, and that's how you basically would put it down in the game, and it designates a zone where you can build in, and you would build it just like any other settlement in the previous game, aside from NPCs, right? And then on top of that, it can be built anywhere, like literally anywhere. The Todd Howard, I remember that he said, mentioning, confirming that you could build anywhere. So you have that. Now, there is a couple other new things per se. You have the nuclear silos, which are in the game that aren't like just story-based. They're actually usable. You can actually target where these suckers go. It actually showed kind of a brief demonstration in the trailer about actually sending one of these things off. Now, of course, you don't see it go off per se. They give you a third-person bird's eye view of it going off and the explosion and everything. But And that's pretty much it for new things that we've learned about the game. So, like I said, clearly different speculation that I had versus what the actual thing was going to be, but they also kind of left it up for a mind gamble to be what it could be about, considering you got to remember name changes can be super significant. The trailer didn't show things that usually other trailers from Fallout have shown. Like, I remember watching the original OG Fallout 4 trailer, and there was gameplay like footage of you actually walking around. So clearly, understandable to why some people also thought along the same lines as me. Maybe not exactly the same thing. That this is going to be a bit of a different game, but in a way it is, and it isn't. So things I like, definitely going towards the multiplayer session. That's a catch-22 though. That's also a dislike of mine, but I like how they're really trying to incorporate the lore of being the first ones out of a vault in a post-apocalyptic world. There's not a lot around for you to just be like, oh, here, I can get this and get this from there. No, you gotta go find out how to get it and where to get it. I like how they kept over the same mechanic system. So that being mentioned, they did change the leveling system a bit. By the looks of it and sounds of what Todd and Pete Hines was describing, was that it's not going to be drastically different from how like you level up with your special system. So you still got your strength, your perception, all of those that you set up. But there's like different perks referred to as perk cards that you can use, which obviously and are interchangeable and exchangeable with people you play with. So clearly, I think what they're trying to do is simplify a little bit of the RPG elements to give room for survival elements and multiplayer elements. Because nothing would be worse than running around from someone who's like level 150 or something from Fallout 4 and you're like level 20 and he's got all those bloody perks. It's like, yeah, good luck. That being said, another thing I like is that new area. It's kind of given. It's in West Virginia, so it's going to be great. Damn you guys for using that song, though. Country Roads from John Denver. Beautiful song. Beautiful song. Beautiful music that man wrote. Anyways, point is, another thing I also like that they have mentioned that they're involving this is the settlement building, but to a different degree. I'm not like a huge guy who's into the Fallout 4 settlements, but that being said, it was because of the responsibility that kind of came with it, and it was a little bit more driven to you had to do it in Fallout 4 per se to a certain degree. This is completely voluntary. You can do it over whatever you want, and not to mention, it's just yours. Although if that's up for grabs to be with your fellow vault dwellers that are playing with you, at least cooperatively, that'd be great too. But for the most part, at least you got it for yourself. Now, the things that I definitely do not like the sound of is Todd Howard saying that the game can be still played single player, and it is a single player in a way, when it's not. They've already confirmed that it's multiplayer. It takes place on servers. It's completely online only. So even though it's online only. And then a PvP is right now not an option to be turned off. And I would be very, very disappointed if they didn't consider games like Grand Theft Auto, where they have an option to turn it on and off per the player. So that way, if you do want to play just by yourself and not be griefed or not have to worry or want to shoot someone else, you can do that. But unfortunately, by the sounds of it, they don't. Now, Todd Howard did mention that they're at a stage right now where they've only done that. So maybe after this E3 and hearing how many people aren't super comfortable with it just being PvP, they might change it. You gotta also keep in mind, because they built it as being an online-only game, there's a better possibility of things being changed for player and fan base. Another thing I don't like is the fact, because of the PvP, and until that changes, nuclear silos are not comforting. Because anyone who buys the game day one, or even beta, if things are stagnant in the game, it means that they're the same no matter what world or server you join, and thus to make it seamless, you can learn exactly where they are all the time. And then you're going to have players dumping those nuclear bombs on every single person, or just randomly, just for the hell of it. And we all know that, because that's just how multiplayer works. You get some trolls in there, and they will take advantage wherever advantage can be held. So that being said, if it was like a PvE type deal, you could also argue that having a nuke dropped on your head by someone who, yeah, can't kill you would be okay, but it sounds fun to drop nukes on someone if you are into the PvP type thing. It's just the fact because it's not an option right now, that's going to suck a lot. And I gotta say, one of the last things that I'm not exactly standing with, that I'm disliking in the game, is how do I explain it? The bigger world is supposed to incorporate. Oh yeah, so that's supposed to be another big thing apparently, is that the world is now 4 times larger than the original Fallout 4 world. As long as they keep in mind that quality over quantity is very important in exploration, they're solid. They're good. As long as they keep that in mind. Because the thing is, without a huge storyline to pull you away from exploration and to drive you to do something else, you need those random rooms, the random buildings, the random bunkers, stashes to be actually genuinely exciting to find. And not this, oh, I found this and it was only exciting because I just happened to be starving and dying from thirst at the same time and just happened to have a water bottle or pureed water and, like, I don't know, mug fruit or something, or meg fruit, whatever they're called. It's like, okay, but that's not the same, right? And that being said, with quantity versus quality and rooting for quality, do the worlds, because they're server based, always change, right? Kind of one of my concerns, because if it's a PvP world, obviously, even if you stand together with a bunch of people, if things are stagnant, you're going to know where they are all the time. And if they disappear and they're gone forever, which would be would kill the world pretty quickly, would suck. If they they respawn like Elder Scrolls Online, using the fact that that's another Bethesda Online game they've made, then you get farming routes and griefing in a different way. You don't have to worry about PvP griefing anymore. You have to worry about PvE griefing. And PvP griefing is even worse, because if anyone figures out that this place is visited so often because of its particular whatever material or supplies you need, who isn't gonna like camp on it? And yes, that does definitely sound like something in the Fallout world, right? Like the trading caravans in Las Vegas, right? They end up having a bunch of issues because Caesar's legions are, by the way, spoilers alert, sorry, come in and basically they camp on them so they can basically ambush them and take their supplies. It's a great way to gain advantage. But this is my argument, though, is this game being made as another Fallout game and can be played as a single-player game, or is it a multiplayer Fallout game which, if you really don't want to, I guess you can play single-player? Because in all reality, that's the equivalent of me saying, hey, I want to play Battlefield, but I'm not going to play in the squads, I'm not going to spawn off anyone, I'm not going to play objectively, and I'm just going to go randomly shoot random people, aside from the ones I can't shoot being your teammates, and then calling that single-player, because it's the same type of thing, right? Single player is where the game mode is built just for them, right? And then that's why you have things like single player co-op. The world is based off of single player, but you have help from friends, or you can have friends play with you. But this is straight up multiplayer only, which, and by the sounds of it, PvP. So it's clearly that answers its own self that this is going towards, you know, the Elder Scrolls Online type of deal, even though that wasn't PvP all the time. But they got to keep in mind that if they're not going to keep certain things around, certain players aren't going to play that anymore. And if they're justifying creating a multiplayer game based off of wanting to expand their audience, that's the wrong way to do it, right? Like, make either the game completely separate and different from the previous Fallout 4, or don't. Because Pete Hines, when he was asked, is this game more like a new edition, like a completely standalone game because of its name, or is it the next type of game? And Pete Hines says kind of both. So they're experimenting to improve the new Fallout 4, or the Fallout franchise experience, but it can be looked at being unique because it's going to be doing this for quite a while, right? Todd Howard said that their servers are going to be kept up for quite a few years while supporting this game. So, needless to say, my review and opinion and suggestion to other Fallout fans and new Fallout fans is to really keep an open mind about this. So far, they have a great opportunity to improve the game if it does get screwed up, or if it's not so great at the beginning because they do have the base mechanics of the game figured out well. Like, you're still shooting, first-person shooter. You're still got the basics like FAT system. For those who aren't really great at aiming or like just using that, they have the Fallout universe, so the way you pick up things off of creatures is still the same. Your interaction menus, your Pip-Boy, so at least the base fundamentals of the game is still Fallout. It's more so what follows afterwards that should be concerned to anyone, even including non-Fallout fans. So that being said, I'm definitely going to be pre-ordering the collector's edition and getting that at ASAP. Hopefully get on that the beta there when they release it. The lovely expression or acronym that Todd Howard explained that was hilarious. And I would recommend to you guys maybe not so much the collector's edition unless you're a hardcore Fallout fan like I am, but definitely don't dismiss it right now because it's multiplayer. And even if they don't establish the non-PvP stuff when it comes to launch, they have every opportunity and chance to change it later on if it's that bad. But yeah, if you guys want me to do another video on one of the Bethesda software games, considering that was the one I kind of watched out to, I gotta say though, that was a rough start to the Bethesda conference. I didn't know what was going on for the first 10 minutes, but if you want me to do another review or opinion on another game, let me know in the comments below. And if you like the video, definitely leave a like, helps me out. But yeah, I hope this doesn't like change anyone's minds about if they do like the game or if they don't like the game in a bad way. It's more so to kind of fill in that someone who's played Fallout for a while, how I feel about it, and also looking at examples from before, right? Because they have done Elder Scrolls Online, which was an extension / standalone away from the Elder Scrolls series. It took place way before any of the Elder Scrolls games that we played. Ironic because this Fallout game does too. So I think they learned a lot from their last game, and I think they got a better idea of what we want and how to work with it. Because by the sounds of it, they were even struggling with trying to get, during an interview, they were working with another company that actually do their online portion of their game, or at least the mechanics, and they're trying to integrate it with the current standing games. And you wouldn't be doing that unless you knew that you need to get done properly, and clearly that it's going to be a work in progress even when the game gets released. So, like I said, keep an open mind about it, and we'll have to see how it turns out when it gets released. Or after the beta testing, after we break the game a bazillion times. Other than that, you guys have a great day. Ciao.